Well, joining us is Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory. She's joining us live from Tunis. Good to have you with us. What's your reaction to what's been happening?
It's disgraceful. Again, I confirm what we just heard. The journalists should be protected like all civilians, and all the more because they have a special duty to tell what happens on the ground. In the past 21 months, 22 months now, we have seen journalists often being targeted for what they were doing. And the fact of having a total ban on foreign journalists entering the Gaza Strip aggravates the situation, because there are no other voices supporting the journalists on the ground. There are over 220 journalists who have been killed right now. This situation is abominable in and of itself. Of course, it's yet another clear violation of international law, another crime that pushes and urges intervention by member states.
We shouldn't lose sight of the fact, of course, that this was a double strike on a hospital, Nasser Hospital, which has been struck several times in the past. We were hearing from one of the doctors who was there at the time, who was describing that the areas hit were operation rooms and where there were likely to be the greatest number of medical staff and patients as well. And this is just another indication, isn't it, that in terms of the Israeli targeted attacks that are happening, not just in Gaza City, which we've been reporting on, with the intention to seize the whole city, but across the rest of the Strip.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob, you're right. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that what was hit was a hospital. Hospitals should be protected in situation of conflict. Now, my position is that we shouldn't qualify this as a conflict per se, because there are no two armies confronting each other. The Gaza Strip, like the West Bank and East Jerusalem, are illegally occupied by Israel. The International Court of Justice has reminded Israel that it has, according to the General Assembly, until September 17, less than a month now, to withdraw the troops, dismantle the settlements, and start offering reparations to the Palestinians for the harm done. Of course, there is no move in this sense, rather the contrary. The situation in Gaza is apocalyptic. There is no way for the people in Gaza to be safe, in hospitals, in refugee camps, and the famine that is tormenting the 2 million people trapped there. It's again, as I said, abominable.
I want to ask you about the international reaction, broadly speaking, to what's been going on in Gaza. The strongest thing that we've heard so far are countries who say that they are prepared to recognise the state of Palestine. If I understand it correctly, 147 out of 193 members of the UN already do that. Is just the recognition, the intention of recognising the state of Palestine enough, do you think, to be able to sway opinion?
No, look, the recognition is important. I've said it other times. It makes no sense that member states who have engaged for 35 years in a process that has led to, frankly, the situation where we are, to stay engaged and not recognize the state of Palestine. So it goes without saying that the state of Palestine should be recognized. But this is not something that should take time or should divert the attention from the emergency on the ground. And calling it emergency is absolutely a disservice to the apocalypse on the ground, which is exposing the gravity of the crimes that have been tolerated. Look, we are not in a situation of normalcy. The crimes we are talking about, starvation, killing of civilians, destruction of civilian infrastructure, and crimes against humanity or forced displacement and genocide are all crimes that call into question the responsibility of member states. Member states that are not doing enough to stop it are making themselves responsible. They should impose sanctions, they shouldn't trade, they shouldn't sell or buy weapons and intelligence to and from Israel. And the lack of compliance with international law puts the very governments we are referring to into questions. So again, it's an incredible situation where everyone is being responsible for not intervening.
We've seen journalists, as we're talking about, being targeted or being killed as a result of their work in Gaza, predominantly because they are the ones who, as you were describing, shedding a light on what was going on the ground in Gaza. We've also seen, in a wider context, critics of Israel themselves being targeted and attacked by legal means or by sanctions. You yourself were sanctioned by the United States for your criticism of Israel. How effective do you think that is? Do you think that that is affecting the message that is getting out from Gaza?
It depends. Frankly, to be honest, the sanctions are heavy to deal with, are undermining the functions of people like me, the judges and prosecutors of the International Criminal Court. Of course, this creating an incredible chilling effect around the possibility to advance justice. However, and I think I bear testament to this, the sanctions only work if we let them work. Doesn't matter. Today, it doesn't matter the personal cost it takes. Those who have chosen to work in the realm, in the field of justice and human rights need to bear the brunt, seek support. For sure, we need the support of many member states and others, but we cannot stop.
Given what's been happening on the ground in Gaza, I want to ask you about the situation with regard to the UN Security Council, because it has been increasingly criticised for a lack of action or an inability to act in some cases because of the opposition of some members of it. I want to ask you about whether or not you believe that the UN Security Council still has any teeth, any role when it comes to situations like this.
Well, of course, the Security Council has a role to play, and it's not new that when it comes to Palestine, as in other cases, unfortunately, the veto power exerted in this case by the United States has hampered the effectiveness of the Security Council. But this shouldn't stop member states. As I said before, member states are individually responsible to take action to prevent genocide and other crimes. So for them, the obligation not to sell or sell weapons, not to buy or sell intelligence, not to provide intelligence, not to send military aid is a cogent responsibility. It stems from the fact that there are international crimes that can be individually and as states be embroiled in. Therefore, the situation is much more complex. It can be. I mean, I'm not saying that the Security Council should not be considered. At the same time, the state of Palestine has asked for intervention. This is a call to member states to act because Israel has no jurisdiction and no sovereignty over the occupied Palestinian territory. So it's not that they need to wait for Israel to give permission. The blockade should be broken, and this can be done by member states. I've been called for over 2 months now for states, especially those who have ports in the Mediterranean Sea, to send navies with their own flags full of humanitarian aid, doctors and all medical supplies and food and baby formula needed. They need to send the navies to Gaza and break the blockade and support that very important effort that is made by civil society. I mean, the flotilla, you have flotillas leaving from everywhere these days to break the blockade. But why member states are not doing so?
Francesca Albanese, we appreciate you, as always, being with us on Al Jazeera. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Rob.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.